Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. So, we do have another Xbox leak to talk about today, as some previously non-disclosed information has made its way online, and it looks like they are set to expand in a pretty major way. In fact, they might be releasing a new device sometime later this year, and this could be big for the Xbox brand, so we'll talk about that one later on in the video. And then also, we did get some more information on the Summer Game Fest. They did announce a release date, and this could be a sign of a pretty big month for the month of June. So we'll talk about that one as well. Per usual though, if you do find yourself enjoying the video, go ahead and smash that like button below. It does help out the channel a ton. I greatly do appreciate it. But also go and hit that bell notification and subscribe button as well. That way you can keep up to date with all of the latest gaming news. Other than that, though, let's just go and jump right into things, starting off with that Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal acquisition once again. Of course, this was a major story that broke earlier this week as the Embracer Group acquired both of these studios, which are highly regarded. But the biggest surprise here really just came down to the price. I mean, they got two very talented studios with several beloved IPs, such as Tomb Raider, for only $300 million. But it did look like Square Enix, they might have been desperate to get rid of these studios, and David Gibson actually explained why over on Twitter. He said it's because Marvel. That's the reason why Square sold its North American team for $300 million. Because in a little under 2 years, they lost $200 million on two Marvel games. But it still looks like a low price given the optionality on probably 4 AAA titles coming through. So there you have it. According to David Gibson, it is because they were losing quite a bit of money on Marvel-related IP, which is kind of a surprise. You take a look at Sony and the type of success they had with Spider-Man, and then on the flip side, you had Square Enix, and they had these popular IPs such as The Avengers. They also had Guardians of the Galaxy, and both these games reportedly lost them money. So with that, and because both of these studios are quite costly as well, that's why Square Enix decided to move on from Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal. So that does kind of explain things, but I still look at this deal and I wonder what Square Enix is doing, because you know, you take a look at somebody like Crystal Dynamics as an example. They of course released The Avengers, and we all know how that game turned out, but it always felt like it would have been better suited as a single player driven game. But something that Square Enix has been trying to do here in recent years is to release some of these live service games. And beyond The Avengers, I mean, I understand it's a popular IP and everything, but Square Enix as a whole hasn't really done well with these live service games. All you have to do is look at some of their recent releases such as Babylon's Fall or Chocobo Racing. So maybe Square Enix needs to take a look at their live service strategy as a whole. Next up, if you missed the Mafia franchise, looks like you're going to be pretty happy because it is being reported that a new Mafia game is in development, presumably a prequel to the Mafia trilogy. This is being reported by Kotaku and their sources, which also claims that this game will be using Unreal Engine 5 instead of the Mafia 3 engine that was recently used in the remasters, and that this game is in early development and its codename is Nero. So the good news here is that for you Mafia fans out there, you will be getting another entry that will be apparently some type of prequel. However, don't expect this game to release anytime soon, as again, they did note that it is early in development, which kind of lines up with everything that we do know about Hangar 13. And that's kind of actually how this entire story broke in the first place. It does sound like that this studio has been having some problems here in recent years. This entire report here was actually about how the Hangar 13 bosses are leaving the studio as they shift over to this Mafia prequel. Now that's not necessarily a bad sign on its own, but this actually follows a major cancellation within the company, as last year they did cancel a $53 million project codenamed Volt. Volt was apparently a completely original IP that focused on class-based cooperative action gameplay, similar to something like Destiny 2 as an example. Unfortunately though, that game just didn't work out, and I think that that's kind of led us to where we are here with this Mafia prequel. A lot of the times when a studio has that type of setback, one thing that you can kind of do is go back to what you best know, and with Hangar 13, that is the Mafia franchise. So maybe this here, with all the experience they have with this franchise, can kind of get them back on track. Again though, just kind of keep in mind this is still in early development, and I wouldn't expect to see this one anytime soon. It's probably at the very least still 3 to 4 years out, if not even longer than that. Let's go ahead and talk about Xbox though, as they did make an interesting announcement today that later on led to a leak, and all of this potentially could be really big with the Xbox brand. We'll kind of get into all of that here in just a moment, but first, let's actually take a look at their official announcement where they revealed that Fortnite will be coming over to Xbox Cloud Gaming. Now this could actually be huge alone, but this is also a major milestone for them as this is their first free-to-play title for xCloud. And this was a great choice as it could expose a lot of people to Xbox Cloud Gaming. Obviously, Fortnite is absolutely massive, but the other part of this is that this will once again allow fans to play Fortnite on iOS devices. Of course, you had the whole Apple versus Epic Games thing, and because of that, they did remove Fortnite from the Apple Store, but this here will give fans a nice workaround as they can once again play Fortnite through Xbox Cloud Gaming on their iPhones or iPads. So this is a really nice addition. With the popularity of Fortnite, this will benefit Epic Games, it will also benefit Xbox Cloud Gaming, and most importantly, it will also benefit fans themselves. However, it sounds like this is just the beginning of a major initiative for xCloud. It does sound like they have some big plans, and according to Tom Warren from The Verge, we will hear about these plans soon. In fact, he revealed some of those plans on Twitter, so let's just go take a look at what he had to say here. Fortnite free on Xbox Cloud Gaming is part of Microsoft's Xbox Everywhere initiative, which I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more about in the coming months. xCloud is getting ready for more markets, more games, and more devices. He then continues on to say that Xbox Everywhere includes devices like a TV puck for Xbox Cloud Gaming, apps for TVs, and even Microsoft's original plan to let you play all Xbox games you own through the cloud. He also did clarify that the new device that they're working on is a puck. Previously, it was believed that they were working on some type of Xbox game streaming stick, but here, according to Tom Warren, it's actually a game streaming puck instead, which is actually a better overall option. For one, this theoretically would allow them to include an Ethernet port, which is actually a pretty important factor here because, with game streaming, this does require good internet speed. So being able to connect to an Ethernet port could actually be very beneficial here, and that's one of the reasons that I look at a puck as a better option. But overall, this is yet another indication that Xbox, yes indeed, is working on some type of budget-friendly game streaming device. And this could be really big for the brand. This would allow them to get into the homes of so many people out there, and it just allows them to kind of cover all grounds. They have the Xbox Series X, which on paper is the most powerful console in the market. They also have the Xbox Series S, which is a very affordable next-generation console. And then on top of that, it looks like they're trying to get this cloud streaming device out there that could go for around $100 or so. And this would be such an affordable option that I could just see so many people out there purchasing a device like this. But that was the other interesting part about this, though, because prior to what Tom Warren said here, I think a lot of us kind of believe that they were just going to stick with Xbox Game Pass games as their cloud titles. However, according to him, their plan is to actually let you play all Xbox games through the cloud. So that means every single Xbox game might be able to be played without the need of an Xbox console. You can simply buy a streaming device like this or even play them on apps through TVs. That's something else that is mentioned. It is to be expected that Microsoft will be partnering up with some different TV brands out there to include an Xbox app on TVs. So they very much do have some big plans for game streaming that could really expand the Xbox brand in a major way. It is going to be an affordable option, and now it just kind of comes down to how well is it going to run? That has always been the question when it comes to cloud gaming. I think for us hardcore gamers, we're just simply going to stick with local devices such as the Xbox Series, as that is always going to be the best option. This, however, could be absolutely massive for the casual market that's not willing to spend $300 to $500 on a new console. This also might end up being a pretty good secondary device for some fans out there just because of how affordable it likely will be. But either way, it is looking like Xbox has some major plans for xCloud going forward, and we will likely start to hear about these official plans sometime here in the coming months. Moving on, though, it is starting to sound like the month of June is shaping up to be a pretty exciting one for gamers. Unfortunately, we don't have E3 per se this year, but we do have some other things happening as we did get further confirmation that the Summer Game Fest will be making its debut on June 9th at 11 a.m. Pacific Time or 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, you can actually take a look over here at Jeff Keighley's tweet where he says, "I'm hosting a live cross-industry showcase, game announcements, reveals, plus days of the devs. Lots of events coming in June. keep checking. And it's that last part right there that is just so particularly exciting, which we'll get into here in just a second. First thing first though, Jeff Keighley here is confirming the day of his event being June 9th, and this is where you're going to see a lot of different publishers come together and make announcements for their games. You might see Sony games pop up here, you could see some Xbox games, you could see some Bandai Namco, Square Enix, or so on and so forth. There's going to be a lot of different announcements at this particular showcase, as we saw last year. Now, I do understand that not everybody necessarily loves the format of Jeff Keighley events. He does have a tendency of making them overly bloated. There's too much advertisements. He also likes to make them into spectacles with actors and musicians coming on screen, and not everybody necessarily loves that. But at the same time, there's always lots of game reveals at his events, and this is just coming from all different types of publishers, so you never really know what you're going to expect. I mean, we could see some pretty major announcements here, so definitely get excited for the Summer Game Fest on June 9th. However, the other really exciting part about this announcement is that he does once again confirm that lots of events are coming in June. Keep checking. So there's still other unannounced events for the month of June. This is something that I've actually talked about various times just over the last week on the channel, but there you have it. We are going to get more events for the month of June. So far that we have got confirmation on, of course, the Summer Game Fest. That's going to be June 9th. Then you also have the Tribeca Showcase. That is going to be on June 10th. And then the Xbox Bethesda Showcase. That is on June 12th. Beyond that, though, things are still a bit of a mystery, but with more showcases confirmed for the month of June, I think that the hope, obviously, is going to be that Nintendo and PlayStation will have some type of an announcement incoming. Now, I think out of the two, the safer bet here would probably be a new Nintendo Direct. Even though Nintendo has been doing their own digital events for a very long time by this point, they've still always tried to put their events into the month of June and just kind of being a part of E3. So I don't think that this year is going to be any different. I would expect a new Nintendo Direct to be announced rather soon, and this is the place where we can maybe finally end some of those rumors. Now, as for Sony, they're a little bit more unpredictable because they have been getting away from those traditional big events during the month of June. We've seen them go away from E3 here in recent years. So again, they're a little bit more unpredictable. But maybe with ESA no longer being involved, maybe Sony will make a big comeback this year and have a big showcase for PlayStation. I guess we'll just have to kind of wait and see, but it is sounding like the month of June is going to be very exciting for gamers. Let's go and take a look at the poll of the day, though, where I asked you all, have you played any of the Earthbound/Mother games? And the results here were a little disappointing, with 76% of you saying no, while only 21% of you said yes. Yeah, I think this is kind of what Reggie Fils-Aimé was alluding to the other day whenever he was asked about the future of the Earthbound franchise. He did kind of indicate that Nintendo knew that the Earthbound Mother community are very, very passionate about these games, but aren't necessarily the biggest community in the world either. And they didn't necessarily know how to make the Mother franchise bigger going forward. And I think the results here kind of leans into that a little bit. It just feels like there's a large portion of the game community that have not played these games, but the people that have, a lot of times they just come away absolutely loving those games, and a lot of people, they believe this to be just flat out one of the best games ever made. It's actually a really unfortunate situation when you start to think about it, because these games, they have had such a profound impact on so many people out there to the point that they really do consider these to be some of the best games. But because they haven't really reached that mainstream market, it almost feels like Nintendo, they just don't know how to continue on with this franchise. Now, I've always kind of said, I don't necessarily believe they need to make it bigger. I think that they could actually make another Earthbound game with a similar art style as Mother 2 and Mother 3. Those games still look good to this day, and you can take a look at something like Undertale as an example that has a similar art style, and it was very successful. So Nintendo doesn't necessarily need to come out and make a big AAA Mother game. I don't think that that's necessarily needed, but that's just my own personal opinion. You might feel completely different. You might just absolutely want a big AAA Mother game, and that would be great as well. I'm not going to disagree with that, but again, I just don't think that that's necessarily needed. It is what it is, though, but let me know what you think about all of this in the comments below. Would you like to see another Mother game created with a similar art style as Mother 2 and Mother 3? Anyways, though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.